What is going on, YouTube world? Steve, Dave, Insert Revolution Podcast, episode number 48. Steve is on vacation right now. He's got some Bud Light and the Toby Keith, the Red Solo Cup. And
Yes.
That's our sponsor tonight. We'll take it.
We're coming up on the drift.
And then I think it's gonna be a little role reversal tonight. Steve's got about an hour, maybe a little less. Since again he's on vacation, that maybe we'll just do the bullshitting first, and then get into the actual topic when he jumps in, and we both did a little note taking.
Yeah. Live from the beach, live from Surfside Beach, per the request of everybody. Sorry, I don't have the chat pulled up, honestly. I know I can, and yes, I'm on my phone. Yeah, coming to you live from Surfside Beach, Texas.
In the middle of frickin' nowhere.
And I'm walking over here specifically because this is one of the first things that we noticed when we got here.
We were here for like maybe an hour and a half by the time we found it.
And I will tell you, the trip down here was an experience.
Freaking sucked.
We had 2 areas of rain. Oh, anybody want a dead fish?
Can I take a picture of it, or is that weird?
Take a picture of the dead fish. Who cares? I don't know. Just take a picture of it. But so we had 2 little areas of rain. And by rain, I mean like a deluge. Like we were driving like 30 miles an hour. So what would normally have taken a little over 5 hours to get here, we got here in just over 7. Whew. Not a pleasant experience, to say the least. But I'm coming up on something I want to show you guys, because this is not something that
You see often.
at least not this big, I guess.
Yes.
Depending on what beaches you've attended and things along those lines, you may see it from time to time.
We've sure never
But
seen it.
this is pretty cool. And just so you are aware, I'll prove it. There's the water. So I am on the beach. We're getting close. We're getting close. Getting close. Of course, I think I'm about to lose my earbud. I don't do this much from my cell phone, so it's a little awkward.
As I say, I don't know if you can see the comments up on your cell phone.
No, I'm not in a banana hammock. I'm in a pair of freaking jean shorts and a shirt.
Well, maybe next time.
All right.
You want
No,
me to stand next
maybe
to it?
next time. Yeah, you can go ahead and stand next to it. So check this out. Well, let me hold this back up. Is that not a piece of driftwood or what?
Good Lord.
I mean, this part's about as tall as me. That's like 5'8" tall.
Yeah, we saw that yesterday, and I was like, and no Daisy Dukes either, Paul.
It's
Damn
an
it.
entire tree.
But that's, I
And you see
mean,
the bigger piece out there?
that was a tree that floated ashore from somewhere.
Yeah, that's the biggest piece of driftwood I've seen. I don't know if anybody ever watches the videos. I mean, I've got
I mean, there's another one out there in the water, but I mean, it's just part of it.
when we go to the ranch in Lake Superior, Tristan and I, we just try to grab some of the driftwood. It looks at least halfway decent for whatever project one day, but yeah, nothing unless they had like a dump truck
Can't tell what it is, but it's kind of cool.
handle that one.
Oh, I'm guessing that Yannick is referring to the Daisy Dukes.
Yeah, they both had that up.
Yeah, no.
Basically simultaneously.
Yeah, no Daisy Dukes. This is a family-friendly beach.
Well, more the reason for that than the banana hammock, I guess.
I guess that's true too.
So did you
And
get
at
your?
some point, what?
Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say before too long. I mean, we'll spend some of the time down here, and then eventually we'll start walking back to where we're staying, just so you can kind of see the rental property that we're staying at. I sent a few pictures. Well, I sent a few of you a picture of the view on Monday night.
Yep.
So it's not, we're not super close, but we're not like super far either. I mean, it's
We can walk and you can see the beach from the
roughly
front.
a 10-minute walk to the beach.
I was gonna say it looks sort of like you had maybe a road that you were on, and then like the not a valley, it was like a field or a meadow. You basically had to cross that, and if you could find a path, you
Well,
could
no,
get there quickly.
so the path to the beach. So the picture I took is to the left. So from the front balcony to the left,
Okay.
that's the scenic point. So where you can actually see the water coming in. We
Okay.
actually have to go to the right to walk a little ways, and then there's the public.
Let me see the
Because I saw some.
Yeah, they're not. It's from these two.
So let's. Sorry, I have my kiddo down here with me. Let's
No
walk
worries.
a little further down here and take them off. Their slides are starting to like chafe their feet. So, and we've walked down here many times, like
There's a
shell
ton of
hunting and
glass.
stuff. There is a ton of glass down here. People are. I'm gonna go on a tangent briefly. You know, the advertisements and stuff, and they talk about, keep the beaches clean, because if you don't, eventually there's not going to be like a beach for your kids or your grandkids or your great grandkids and stuff. Freaking listen to what they say. Every time we've come down to the beach, we've at least picked up a few pieces of trash and put them in the damn trash. But it's all over the place. It is freaking ridiculous. Bottle caps.
Then another closed one.
Bottle caps, plastic, like water bottle lids, just garbage. I mean, straight garbage. It's pathetic. I mean, it's pathetic.
That was a good size one, Dad.
Sweet.
I've never understood that either. Again, it's not only for the alleged use of others' kidneys, it's for when you go somewhere. You go out to camp, you go to the beach, wherever you're going that isn't your home, leave no trace.
Exactly. Take care of it.
Leave it in the way you found it. Yeah, that just it doesn't make any sense. Again, you've either got parents that are just dipshits and kids with tossing stuff and they're not lazy, they can't pick it up, or other youth, or maybe even just old folks that are just like, I don't care. Well, again, hopefully the next hurricane or whatever tornado that rolls through that area, they get swept away out to the Gulf of Mexico into one of those burning oil rig things, and that's the end of that. Because we don't need those.
Just
folks.
remember that's where we are.
Well, I know. I'm just saying that now. When you guys leave, and those people come back and they trash the place.
The water's getting a little colder.
But it's still pretty nice feeling.
There's a better view of the other piece that's still kind of hanging out in the water.
Good Lord.
See it sticking up?
I wonder if that thing came from like California or Redwood or something.
Oh,
It's like it kind of just
shit!
dipped down.
I cussed. We're walking along the tide, the shoreline right here.
Yeah.
And it was like not very deep. And all of a sudden we stepped down and it was like, yeah, that went a little deeper than what we expected. Does it matter?
People are judgy.
Screw people.
That's sad.
As we've said, as long as you're happy, that's all that matters.
Who cares what people think?
Isn't exactly. Exactly. So how's everybody else doing?
Trying to go on.
Yeah.
You did.
Did you get everything done on your list? Because I know you had said
My list. Oh yeah. So 3 showers fixed. For those people who know or don't know, and a lot of people probably don't because I had to explain it to Vinny. So if you have a single handle shower that controls both the hot and cold water, those things have a cartridge. And we have the guest bath, and then we have 2 shower faucets in the master bath. And so they were getting hard to turn, all that kind of fun stuff. Here you go, kiddo.
And then it's
And so, which indicates that you have to replace them. So I had to replace all 3 of them. And let me tell you, they're a bitch. And then I ripped up the carpet in the master bedroom. Finally. So mowed both the front and the backyard, which needed to be done before, of course, we left. So yeah, it was a busy last, 4 days in preparation to go on vacation on Monday.
I packed very last minute.
Well, you always pack very last minute, kiddo.
And then I
Just,
overpacked.
but yeah, it was an interesting, busy 5 days leading up to going on vacation. But it was well worth it. We're here. We arrived in one piece. It's been enjoyable. We've had rain the last 2 days here, but none of those days were technically beach days anyways, so it kind of worked itself out. Can y'all actually hear the water though? I'm just curious if you can hear the waves coming in or not.
Mm-hmm.
Is that good enough? Better half? Let me know for sure. If not, I'll try and do better. But I'm trying to do this one-handed. I have a beer in one hand. If you missed the sponsor is Bud Light. It's just not in a bottle because I didn't want to bring a bottle down here because, people frown on bottles on the beach. It doesn't say no glass, but I'm one of those that would rather. Anybody want to see a dead fish? Can you see a dead fish? Dead fish. So.
Tell them about all the baby frogs.
Oh, kiddo wants. I would have never thought this. So when we went to Padre, oh, that's a good one. We're out here shell hunting, by the way. So this is like a multifaceted trip down here to make everybody happy. Got to make our audience happy. They wanted it to be done at the beach. I have executed per the request of the masses, but we're down here hunting for shells too. But what's interesting is a lot of the area, like further away from the water and the beach area, we've seen a crap ton of like baby frogs.
Baby.
Like small, like as big as your like pinky nail small.
Yes.
Which I thought was kind of interesting. But then again, if they've had a lot of rain down here, it's always going to be possible that, tadpoles and turning into froggies. And so yeah, we've walked the beach now, what?
I think this is like the 6th or 7th time.
Yeah, 6 or 7 times since we've been here. And we got here Monday evening.
Because we do one in the morning and 1 or 2 in the afternoon and night.
Here's one. So yeah, I know I've been rambling, but then again, I kind of had a feeling most people would kind of want to know what the plans have been, what's been going on, how the weather's been. That's broken. But supposedly no more rain in the forecast, which is good. So we'll have a beach day in the coming future where we actually come and camp out.
You found a golf
So
ball?
yeah. Oh yeah. Found a random yellow golf ball.
That felt important.
Of all things.
Huh. Yeah, that's interesting. Like I said, I just don't get everywhere on the beach.
It's like a
And
crab show. Some kind of show.
That is part of a crab show.
I don't know if I want to pick it up or not.
I wouldn't. Yeah, this has been an adventure as far as what we've seen.
What other cool stuff have we seen?
Nothing compared to Padre. There was
Padre
one.
had a lot of cool shit.
There was one morning we walked out. I think it was the first morning we got there. My wife and the kiddo and I, we went down to the beach. Hold this. I lost my mic. Saw a jellyfish had washed up.
Oh, I remember that.
So just
The show.
can't tell. No, that's a pistachio. It is a shell. We have pistachio.
It is technically a show.
Oh, thank you, better half. I was telling Dave that eventually, once we start progressing back towards the rental property that we're staying at, I'll
Put my shoes back on.
yes, I'll show everybody our pad for the next few more days.
They're running marks. Blisters. Not feeling great. Because they're still wet.
It's nice, man.
I have bunk beds.
Yeah.
That's the thing. Even there, that's what.
That also
Kristen,
felt important.
Just because you go somewhere on vacation, a lot of that thought process is always you've got to go do something every day. You've got to go to the museum. You've got to go check out the local whatever. Go check out the nightlife if you like that. Maybe go to the bar, have an adult beverage and whatnot. That's why we mesh so well together. When we go to Lake Superior, do you want to go looking for rocks on the shore? Yeah, let's go. Do you want to sit and do nothing all day? Yeah, let's do that. Do you want to go hiking on the waterfall trails? Sure,
Pick
let's
that
do
up.
that. So, yeah, that I completely get the just like puffing around on the beach because again, it's stuff you don't see every day. You see it, like you said, that's like your family vacation style is going down to the Gulf and doing this stuff. You see it once a year.
Yeah, for the record, we're doing our part. It's the plastic. Plastic is a no-no on the beach, man. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, Dave, but
Oh, no worries.
just
But yeah,
proving the aspect, even if it's one piece, but every time we walk down here, we at least pick up something. I know it's not a lot. It's not going to save the ocean, but if everybody does it, just one piece at a time, it can make a difference. So,
yeah, I don't get that aspect at all. Just laziness and negligence. That's all it is. And just people not caring. Which,
Trying not to let me, but
well, it's because people, like you said, though, if people don't live in the area, here on vacation and stuff like that, they don't think about anything else.
mm-hmm.
I don't know if they're going to be able to
a baby frog.
see the baby frog.
Mm-hmm.
cigarettes, please. So yeah, it's
But that should be the thing. It's like, okay, yeah, we're away from home, but if we were home and we went to whatever our favorite swimming hole or amusement park or baseball field or whatever it is, you saw all the shit everywhere. Like, you feel the same way. You're like, fuck, what's all the trash everywhere? Why is this here? What is going on? So, I don't know. It makes no sense to me.
Oh, I tried to
A
get
lot
crab
of
by the
people
river too.
become it. It doesn't make much sense anymore.
What's that?
that's one of the small crabs.
It's a baby crab. Or is it just a small tiny?
I'm not going to be able to show this to where you could see it, but
I'd pick it up, but that sounds like a terrible idea in the end.
it's the first time we've seen there. I don't know.
It's kind of the color.
I don't know. Can you see?
I can see a dot or something there.
See, it just moved. But
Yeah.
it's like a little small crab.
We found a dead crab by the river too.
But going back to also what you had mentioned earlier, there's another one going. The only thing we have planned on this trip is we're going out to eat on Thursday.
Mhm.
And it's a place called the Snapper Inn or something like that. And it's been in business down here for 20 plus years, which I know doesn't seem like a long time, but it's a little small hole in the wall place. And
Sorry, I'm distracted.
they have like 10 different kinds of snapper the way that they make it. And snapper is my favorite fish. I love snapper. So we're going there for dinner on Thursday.
I'll probably only eat shit.
And outside of that, there's really nothing on the agenda.
Other than what we do for dinner. But even that wasn't like set in stone as for the night. Just we knew what we needed.
So,
Dinner tonight was probably the best dinner we'll have, in my opinion.
well, you're not a fan of ribs.
No.
You'll eat
Shrimp tacos.
You'll eat a burger, even though it's not your favorite.
I got shrimp tacos.
Yes, you got shrimp tacos for dinner.
That's my favorite.
So yes, we made a menu, so we brought all the food down, so we're not having to go to the store, and it just makes things easier.
And see, that's for me. If I was down there, I would want to go at least once to the store because, again, working in a store, being in a completely different geographical location, I'm always interested to see what's here, what's there. Obviously, it's going to be more of the seafood type fare down there because, again, the sea is right there, but or the Gulf of Mexico everywhere. But
That's probably a bad
yeah,
idea to kick
I
it.
like doing that. But yeah, if you can avoid that completely and just
Well,
fridge and freezer and be like, okay, we'll just cook here. More family time, less time wasted, like splitting up. Hey, we're gonna go. I'll go get it. You do this or whatever. You're on vacation as a family. Why? Because you want to spend more time with the family.
so funny story though. So we rented the property through VRBO or Verbo, however they advertise it as Verbo, but we still call it VRBO. And they send you an inventory list of like what's at the house, right?
Okay.
And it said drip coffee maker or drip coffee pot because I drink coffee in the morning. Both our neighbors drink coffee in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
That may be broken. We get here, we look at all the cabinets.
It's a Keurig.
No coffee maker. There's a Keurig. Last I checked, that is not a drip coffee maker.
No.
So my wife and Bill's wife had to take a trip to Walmart, which is a half an hour down the highway.
Oh.
Why they call this a highway, I don't know. It's only 2 lanes, but I digress. To go to Walmart so we could actually have a coffee maker.
But this morning.
So this morning we used a colander or a strainer. It was more a strainer.
Okay.
Put a coffee filter in it, put the coffee grounds in it, and poured boiling water through the strainer. So we actually had coffee. Oh, that's cool.
Well, You have to
I don't know
adapt.
how well you're gonna. I don't know. Is that showing up at all? It's purple.
What is that, a whale's tooth?
Do what?
Is that a whale's tooth?
No. That's somebody yelling and screaming.
No.
And I don't know if you can see this either. There's also like 2 barges out there. Off on the horizon line.
No, there's all I can see is a truck. But again, I'm on the phone, so maybe I'm people on the computer.
Is that better? I'm trying to also turn the phone. Do I need to tilt up more?
A little down.
A little down.
There you are.
See the barges?
I cannot, but I'll trust that you are correct.
Well, it's hard for me to know what you guys can see because I'm not actually. Let me do this because I can't like zoom in though either.
No.
So just over like my right shoulder on the horizon line.
No, I can't.
Yeah, it's sorry.
No worries.
Like I said, it's one of those. It's not like I can zoom in while I'm doing this. Back and to the left. No, it's back and to the right. If we're going to quote the movie JFK, it's back into the... Oh, no, it is back into the left, isn't it? Jeez.
Nice job, Dad. You ruined it.
Who cares? Somebody driving down the beach over here deciding to jam their music.
Terrible choice of music.
Yeah, music
I'm
kind of
biased,
sucks. That's just me.
In like a side-by-side type of vehicle.
Do what, Dave?
Hopefully they're not driving in like a side-by-side type of vehicle.
No, they're in a truck. They're in a full-size truck.
Okay, because God, those things are... Everybody's been buying those, I think, with all of their stimulus money. If it hasn't been for cards, it's been for side-by-sides. I mean, that's literally exploded, where nobody has wheelers anymore or any of that. It's side-by-sides, and that's it. And they are not cheap at all.
No, these are... I mean, the entry point to the beach, the back part, like where we're walking right now, this is almost like the drive path, which has proved difficult to, you know, because so this is the ground. So, I mean, it's all compact up here. So, you know that in certain situations, granted, we've had a lot of rain. So if it dries out, maybe this will be more like normal sand, and we'll be able to find more shells. But shells have been a little bit difficult to come by.
Cool. It reminds me of like a fish's fin with the black on the end.
But we have found a few here and there. But like I said,
found the best ones. Just saying.
Yes, my kiddo has done well. Has done very well.
I found the biggest one we found.
But you know, this has become a tradition for us to get up early, come down here later in the evening, and hunt for shells. And it's usually just the 2 of us.
Dad, you did almost find a really cool shell.
Yeah, we won't talk about that.
Are you still disappointed by it?
I am disappointed.
It would have been really cool. It's still pretty cool.
I found that they're kind of like the spiral shells, but they're like the really long ones.
Okay.
You know, like yay long, and they come out to a point. Well, we were walking along the beach this morning, and I saw the tip of one. I'm like, I started getting like really careful. So I started, you know, working myself around it. I'm like, oh, this would be really cool if I found one. It was just the tip. I I was disappointed.
And of course,
Yeah, that's
from
like never,
Executive, which is a raccoon Pokemon from the eggs
never
that hatch.
done.
I know
I
that
know,
means nothing to you, but I want to say it.
I know Tristan, one of our friends from work, went to some Padre
Or back in
three,
Elijah.
3 years ago, maybe, or 4.
I was like, we walked pretty far. We just kept
And
going.
she said she loved it down there. Again, that's like Lake Superior. So
Ow.
a lot of stuff to look at, a lot of stuff to do.
No.
I'm thinking eventually we'll go down there, do something like that too. That'll be like, that could be like as well. Get anybody
Oh.
that resides in Texas. I don't know how many there are, but I know there's a few. So, and Scott, and then AR Platinum. He's going by Houston.
Padre is nice.
I like Padre. I got to hold baby gators in the giant snake. So
I mean, Padre is nice. Where we stayed, you know, it's your normal beach, the sandy beaches, you know, and there's a good possibility that this may be the way it always is. I don't know. I've never been to Surfside Beach, right? So, I mean, this is the first time I've been here. Surfside Beach is a part of Galveston.
Mm-hmm.
Just curious. And because they've had a crap ton of rain down here, and this is no exaggeration, guys, the mosquitoes here,
they're huge.
they are freaking huge.
They're like that big.
And, you know, normally when you kind of like, if a mosquito lands on you, you kind of kick your leg or you swat near it to have it fly away.
Yeah, these
Mm-hmm. They don't move. You have to kill them. You have to kill them.
Oh. Yeah, that's
but they are
state
freaking.
bird.
Oh, your state bird.
But this year, they've been the usual in a drier year, because obviously rain has been few and far between. We probably got.
Got bit and didn't realize it. And it's at the back of my heel, so it's just really bad.
I think we got 1/10 of an inch yesterday, and whatever was scheduled or that was supposed to come through tomorrow it's now non-existent. So, and then eventually I'll send in like the chat. So everyone cares, but there's a map of Ontario, and again, Ontario just isn't over by Toronto. It ranges, and I want to say it's right above like North Dakota is where it ends. So I mean, it's a huge province, but there are so many fires in Ontario right now that like the Canadian, I don't know what they're called, because it's not, I don't know if it's the firefighters or what, but they are not even tending to some of these fires because they're in uninhabitable or uninhabited areas. So a lot of them are, well, if they're not being tended to, guess what? They're burning out of control. And as I've said before, Ely's about a half hour. If you were to go in a straight shot, up to, you can make it to Canada in a half hour if there's a road directly up there. There isn't, because it's like a protected wild, like a wilderness. The BWC, Boundary Waters Canoe Area Wilderness. It's like protected from any motorized vehicles, whatnot. I think it's 2 or 3 of those fires are coming down from Canada. They're crossing the border, and they're coming into the United States. And I'm reading this today, and it's like 19 miles away from Ely, which, again, I've said, Ely is close to Canada. So I took a picture this morning. I was walking to work, looking off in the distance, and it looks like fog. That's all the smoke from these fires coming down here, and it's been like that now for 2 weeks. Where you look at night and that sunset, it's like a blood red sun because of that the fire, the smoke from the fires. And I don't think anything will eventually hit here. If it does, I mean, I've got some packing to do, but it's getting tiresome where every day is you're smelling smoke. It's like you're at a campfire. Like the smoke keeps blowing in your face when you're at you have a campfire, and people are coughing, and they're just the reactions to said fire and the smoke. It's getting old, and but you still have people commenting on these like Facebook pages about, oh, is there a fire in the area? Is it going to hit Ely? I'm like, do you not pay attention at all to anything? I mean, if you thought, or if there was a fire that was going to hit Ely very soon, you think anybody would be around to like answer your question? No. So we got that going on. We're hoping for rain. We have had very, very, very little. We need what Steve and DC and everybody in that south has had pretty much for the last month-ish or so. We get like 2 or 3 days of rain. I don't need the flooding. I don't think it'd flood, but man, we just, if you even had a day of rain, it wouldn't do any good. It would saturate it immediately, and it's like if I ran a marathon and somebody handed me an ice cold beer and I chugged it and expected me to be good off that. It's like, no, I have to have a lot more to replenish those fluids. So it's again not the California, Oregon, what was it, the McMurray, Alberta fire a few years ago north of Edmonton, where it was just sheer pandemonium. The ones in Australia, I don't think it'll ever get to that degree, but at some point, I know they're working on it, but man, it's got to start getting better. We need rain, and rain and rain. But yeah, there's a ton in Ontario, Bobby. I'll send you something. I'll send you like an illustration that they've had. I don't know if it's a DNR or the Forest Service. I mean, it's like fires everywhere, like just north of Minnesota, the border. So, it sucks. And then there's Joey. What's up, Joey? Got that. Yeah, those are California's burning it. California's always burning, and that's again negligence. I mean, there's a lot of it's just stupid luck where a car starts, kicks up a rock as it's going on the highway that somehow emits a spark in the bush, and then guess what? Starts a fire. But a lot of it's negligence and cigarette butts, or somebody's lighting off firecrackers, or whatever the case may be. And campfires, it's like, no, just when everything is tinder dry, don't press your luck. Most every time with that, you're gonna have a whammy. So yeah, glad you're getting good weather down that way. At least it cooled down up here a little bit. Today it was like 70. It was really muggy though. And I think tomorrow it's supposed to be like 66, which it's better than 89, 90, and just baking. Plus, there's been a little breeze.
Yeah. Well, the house that we're staying at, the covered patio, the deck, there's always a nice breeze. You good? So since we're coming up on the hour, we're gonna go ahead and start walking back. I'm gonna let this vehicle pass by, and I'll leave you with one more shot of the beach. Benny, how close are you and the better half from getting home? So I'll be looking for that response, Dave. So one more shot from the beach. I know it's in the distance, but Say bye to the beach. At least from the Insert Revolution podcast perspective.
Yeah, that's gotta happen. That's gonna probably happen up in Lake Superior. Just depends on how the water levels are. There's some horrendously low water levels up here too. Where I don't know if I've shown you like the Gooseberry Falls where Tristan and I went before, and you've got like 3 or 4 sets of falls, and you can go right up to the one falls and just basically stand not under it, but you can get right up to it. Those 2 of the 3 are dry right now.
Oh, wow.
There is nothing. So it's we had snow, but we did not have a lot. There's not much.
So not much melting.
Yeah.
To
There isn't much rain in the spring. Obviously, the summer there hasn't been much rain. It is one of the most down years. And again, talking to the older drive around, they're like, yeah, it's been like this before, but not for quite a while. And I'm like, I know. I mean, I remember 91 and 92. We had a fire like 20, 25 minutes south of here. That was a big fire. We had one a few years ago, like I said before, close to the North Shore, then to Ely. But I mean, it was 20,000 acres, 23,000 acres. So we've had them, but the drought right now, if something came through and like started up a couple big fires, it would be troublesome. But
we've actually had more rain this summer than we've had in years prior.
Howdy, Robert.
What's going on, Bob? Did Vinny ever respond to my question?
No, I'm guessing he's still in transit.
Or maybe he got home and he's trying to get loaded up.
Figure stuff out.
It's always possible. You know, we're in transit back to the rental house that we're staying at. Everybody was like, "Oh, we get to sit there and photobomb your podcast." I said, "No." They kind of looked at me. I was like, I did a poll. Everybody said they wanted me to be at the beach. So that's where I'm going. So that's no fun. Well, such is life.
I'm just amazing. So I got.
I will agree with that.
That's my story.
But it's been a tradition that, you know, when I go to the beach, the kiddo usually goes with me. Unless it's during like sunrise and it's too early. Like, I'm not allowed to wake them up before 7. Anything after 7, I'm good.
Now, if I'm already awake, it's gonna be short.
I did that before we left, Bob.
You want some Dr. Pepper?
Along with a few other things. But you can go watch the... No, I'm walking back from the beach, Bob. I'm on vacation.
Yeah.
You'll have to go back and watch the first part of it. Oh, Vinny. We're out there, Vinny.
There's my writing down for the.
Yeah, but I'm gonna so they can see that.
The topic tonight, so it'll be.
All right, so here is where we're staying.
Okay.
Right behind me. And the cool thing about it is we haven't done it yet, but because of where we're sitting,
Yeah.
there's a patio. Thank you. On the back of mine and my wife's bedroom. So if we want, we can actually sit out on a balcony and watch the sunset if we want. Only for the first hour, Bob. Only for the first hour. Because the plan was be here for the first hour, and then Vinny was going to jump in and go into the topic. But Vinny's now gone MIA. Perfect timing. Perfect timing. Look at this.
Perfect.
What's going on, Vinny?
What's
Look at
going
you.
on?
Look at you.
Most
Look
people
at you.
don't.
No, we knew you were in transit, but it was one of those in which I didn't want to leave Dave hanging too long by himself.
Jeez. I thought I took notes.
Did you like the view better half? Was it?
We lost Steve.
At least he got to ask his one final question.
There's some big names on this unprotected list.
Yes. I had read through probably half of it, and everything I've read through has been in like through the wild. I wanted to get through the wild part, and then after that I hadn't read much. But then I know the other day I looked at like Tampa Bay, and like, huh,
Mm-hmm.
that's an interesting bag there.
So that's Bob. What Bob does,
Yeah, but
whether purposefully or unpurposefully.
I think that's just natural, Bob. And there he goes. No worries, Joey. I'm gonna say go good game. I'd rather see a game 7 between Phoenix and Milwaukee because I know you've got a dog in the race. I don't. I like both teams. There, as a child, that was the only thing I could really drop. It was that old Bucks logo where the Buck was sort of sitting on, I don't know if it was the M or the B, and then had like the basketball up like this. That was about the only thing I could draw after like looking at it for many days. So, but I also love the Phoenix jerseys from way back too. So, I don't care who wins. It's not the Lakers. It's not the Spurs. It's not the Nets. It's not Boston or Cleveland or the Clippers. We're good. It's going to be either team. I know you don't want to hear it that wins. Fine by me. Because both haven't won it in forever. But that's the Vikings uniforms. You're a Packers fan. Come on now. Wrong sport.
I had no NBA team growing up, so I own no allegiance.
Matt had this one earlier, and if it was before the news got out about his hip, I would have thought yes. Because you can already see, like, okay, Price, and it's not even the same situation as Pittsburgh had with Fleury and who was it? Matt Murray.
Yep.
Because Jake Allen, I don't know how old he is, but I don't think he's a young pup anymore. You too, Joey. Go team. But it wasn't the same situation. And that you're coming off your first Stanley Cup run since what, 93? For Montreal. Price started all 22 games.
She's watching us.
Why?
myself.
She said, "Why?
Because I was upstairs eating. I was upstairs eating. What else
Don't
would
give
I
me your
do?
greasy hands, then." See, you can't even unlock your phone. Carry on, Dave. I apologize.
No worries. No worries. Then the news comes out about Carey Price's hip. And again, I don't know how much of that is a smokescreen. I don't know. I don't know if that's the case. But it's interesting that that would come about. Because do you, if you're Seattle, take him? Hope you can get, because there's two for Minnesota that I'm going to focus in on later. That are the two that I think, one of the two is going to get picked. One of those is a goalie. So do you take Price? Do you take the one from Minnesota, who will expand upon our discussion in a moment? And because you got Dreiger, you're going to take him from Florida. You already because I think it was anybody that was unprotected up until, I don't know if it's tonight or whatever, they can negotiate with if they have a vested interest in said player. But I think it's also, they have to come to a agreement, because if they draft somebody, those players that are free agents can still sign when the 28th comes up with someone else, even if they've been picked. So they're not beholden to the expansion draft result. So unless you've previously come up with a deal to sign some of these big names, because there's some monster names that are left unprotected, some absolute monsters, such as that one.
Yep.
But seeing that, there, as much as it'd be a ticket boon for out there, there's still two players I'd probably take over Ovi in Washington if I'm trying to build it up. And that won't help Detroit at all. That'd be, I don't think they'd do that. I mean, they might sign him, but at the same time, it depends on how frustrated he is in Washington. And I don't think at this point in his career he wants to go to a team that, frankly, isn't going to win anything at any point soon. I think if you say, hey, Ovi, where do you want to go? Boston, maybe a Toronto, Montreal there, maybe Tampa, because again, you take a sweetheart deal down there or something. I don't know. But I think he's got it so good in Washington. Why would you leave?
Rumors were that he wanted to play for Montreal. He wanted to play for one of the original 6 clubs. So
I remember that a couple of years ago coming out too, and it's like, well, if some of these guys go, especially with Montreal, if Price is still there and let's say Thomas Tatar goes, you're going to need some offense to replace him. But I just don't think any of the other free agent type guys, unless it might be a restricted free agent, that's going to be the difference. The unrestricted, where they're done, their contract's done. you can pick, or you can pick them, and they have no chance of being there. They can just simply say, you know what, thanks for taking me, but we didn't talk. I'm not staying here. This is not where I want to be. Or that nothing against you guys. I don't want to start over. I'm going to go somewhere else. But to have Dreiger as one of your goalies, again, it's going to have to be a 1A, 1B there. He's still got such a small sample size. older guy, but he had a lot of success with Florida this year, which nobody saw coming at all on both ends.
Yep.
So to have that, that's a solid start. Because obviously that back half is more prolific in your success or failure rate than what you put on the front three, or the front half. That you can muster and grind out games, but if your defense and your goalie are giving up 5-6 goals a game, it's always going to be tough to win. So we'll get into some of the guys we think might get picked. I right before I went on, I made sure to look because ESPN had a mock after I'd written down all the players that I thought were of significance in the possibility of getting drafted. I didn't write down every player of every roster because that's just too much. But there was a lot of the guys, I'd say probably about 75 to 85% that I had already written down. And I know they had some like third, fourth liner type guys, some possible upside guys that, again, got squeezed out by the numbers crunch. But we'll go through some of that. We'll talk a little, I think, about the possibility of trades to take certain players and then you add some sweeteners to the pot. I know, like we've discussed before, when I think it was Eric Holla, they took Vegas from the Wild, and not to take Dumba, and they got I think a first round pick with it, and then Alex Tuck. So it obviously worked out well for Vegas.
Absolutely.
So I don't know how many of those deals are going to be bantied about, because again, there's I don't know if Tampa will do something, take somebody else instead of Yanni Gourde, because that would be the guy that I would take, especially after that playoff run. I mean, he looked an instigator, but guess what? He's got offense. Opposed to like a Kaloran, Andre Palat, and Tyler Johnson, who they've been trying to get rid of for 2-3 years now. Even though he's a high offensive output guy, I'd rather have Gourde, second line center. He can bump up to that. He gets in the corners, and he is not afraid to mash it up with the guys. You saw that in I think the series against the Islanders. He was all over and just causing havoc. I mean, getting penalties or drawing penalties, and that the Islanders couldn't really stop him. They tried and tried, and it just he was a thorn in their side. So we'll try to delve into a bunch of subjects and try to sound as intelligent as we can. I mean, that's not going to be very, but we'll give it the old college try. That is true. The original team getting 8 instead of all the others doing 7 years in a free agent in a strict contract. Yeah, it just depends on where you're at in your career. If you're like a Landeskog, you probably don't want to try to start, I won't say over, but it is starting over. When you started in Colorado, you and McKinnon were, again, coming to a franchise that was sort of in disrepair after a long, lengthy success. So, and they've built that up again. So do you want to stay there? You're like, okay, maybe I'll give you a discount just to keep some of these core pieces. So I think Makar is going to be a free agent or an RFA next year. So, I mean, you got to keep that in mind. I think McKinnon's going to be a free agent, I think, coming up. So, it's a lot of balancing, which, I don't know. It's going to be interesting. I've said it before, I love any of the drafts. I just love, especially where you can trade picks. The NHL draft, and is not that far off. I don't know if that's next week, 2 weeks, 2 weeks, I think. Like the 8th or the 5th or somewhere in there. So I just like that type of activity because it gets juices flowing, chatter. It's speculation season. So Vinny and I will try to finagle our way through this and explain to anybody that's listening the best that we can.
Entry draft's July 23rd. That's this week.
Gee, well, maybe I'm thinking the NBA draft. I know that's got a little length between it, but yeah, that a lot of stuff going on. You got the expansion tomorrow. Friday's the NHL. So what? Friday, Saturday probably.
Yep.
And then the 28th, so a week from tomorrow, free agency. So in the next week, you've got the possibility for a lot of roster turnover. And always fun to talk about.
NBA draft's the 29th, Dave.
So there you go. Then a week and 2 days for the NBA draft. So a busy week for the NHL.
Very.
So we'll start with you, Vinny, since I've been rambling for about 40 minutes. What names specifically, I'll say, were you sort of stunned to see on there being exposed for the expansion draft?
Well, I went through the list last night, and I picked out 78 forwards, 25 defensemen, and 20 goalies that caught my eye. And on that goalie list, Jonathan Quick jumped out at me. Carey Price jumped out at me. Ben Bishop, who either they're in their later years of playing, but I did not think, and it's like Tristan Jarry got protected by the Penguins, and it made me think a little bit.
Yeah.
Because he had a rough go last year. But they didn't protect Casey DeSmith, who showed promise. So that kind of got me. Sebastian Aho on defense. That one jumped out at me after the year he had. Oli Mata, who's still relatively young for defense. Mark Stahl didn't. I just was surprised to see his name, but he's another. The Stahls are in the twilights of their career. Same with Alex Goligoski.
Yep.
But he'd be a good one to get maybe 1 year deal.
Yeah.
But do you want to waste it? Or do you want to draft young? It just depends on what they want to do. Daniel Chara's on there for that matter. Shea Weber's out for the next 12 months, so he's on there unprotected. PK Subban's on the list. So those were the big D-men that jumped out at me. And then Svechnikov is not protected forward-wise. That one jumped out at me. Ovi, of course, jumped out at me. A lot of these other guys, like Corey Perry, twilight of the career. Landeskog. like you said, I don't know if he wants to go through a rebirthing of again. James Van Riemsdyk didn't surprise me as much as I thought it would. James Neal's on there again,
Yep.
so he could be drafted by both expansion teams in the last 10 years, which would be interesting. Spezza was on there. Jordan Eberle. Max Domi was on there too. I was surprised a little about that. I'm trying to see who else did I have highlighted. Getzlaff, which didn't surprise me that much. Taylor Hall was on there. So, I mean,
Yeah, with him too, it's same thing. Free agent, and it's all indications point back to a Boston reunion, or at least he said I want to stay here. I mean, I like it. I can do better. But yeah, there's so much talent out there. And again, you don't have to sit there and say, "Well, God, I'm up against the cap or whatever." It's like, no, I think you have to go between 60 and 100% of the cap. And the cap, I think, was at like 81 million and change.
Yep.
I think that 60% was at somewhere, the 60 million-ish to 65, I think. So, or no, was it 45 million? So you can't sit there and say, well, we don't want to go up past just over half. You've been pushing for this franchise for how many years? You've redone the Key Arena. You've sort of delayed right near the end. I think making the last payment to become like the officially full-fledged NHL franchise or get their whole foot in the door in March. They were even late on that because that sort of prohibited them from signing into these college free agents. So you and I know I want to say they're going to spend. They've said that it's not going to be nickel and diming. We're not going to go like balls out, but I mean we're not going to sit there and be also rans out of the gate and sort of be like what Atlanta was back in like the late 90s. And guess what? Yeah, it's a great sports town, but is it a hockey town? No. So there's so much talent that if you look at them and I'm looking at names and I'm like, God, these. But again, I always think of like 5 years ago, 10 years ago. So when I'm seeing like Kevin Shattenkirk, Bobby Ryan, Josh Bailey, Okposo, I'm like,
yep,
wow, this is like last 10 to 15 years of like all-stars. Yes, a lot of them are skating within their last like 2 to 3 years of their final shift, but at the same time, you don't need to. If you can get the right mix, get some of these young guys that maybe haven't produced, like a Max Domi who's good, but that talent just doesn't mesh completely. Get a guy that's maybe on like a third or fourth line for a big team like a Boston or the Islanders or somebody that's a playoff perennial contender, and put them on a second line with a couple other skilled players that are better than what they've been playing in like a grinder third or fourth line, and see them develop. And then you get the bigger name players that you still think and hope have a little tread left on the tire.
And they could put a heck of a grind line together with this list. Because I tell you what, Luke Glendening wore the A for us last year for Detroit. And that kid, he's deep, as far as draws wise, that kid could take a draw. I mean, at center, there's not too many people that can take a draw like him. He's really good at it. So he jumps out at me, and Nick Bonino's on here. there's a grinder. Him and for the Penguins when he played for that. I forget what line it was. It was Bonino and two other guys. Like escapes my memory, but they were the producers for the Penguins in the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
They just every time they got on the ice, they would grind it out and there'd be a goal. So if you could put that together on a third or fourth line and just grinding guys that are going to pop in that puck every time, you could probably get away with $7 million for 3 guys that are going to tear it up for you.
Yeah.
And they're on this list.
Yeah, Ronnie Francis isn't a dummy.
No.
I mean, you want somebody that's been around the game, in the game for as long as he has, with as much success as he's had. So getting those right folks up in the front office, that's going to be huge for them. Again, I don't know much about that coach. I think he's from Toronto? From the Maple Leaf? I'm not familiar, I'll say that with him, but again, if you pay your dues, and they're not going to just pick somebody haphazardly out of the crowd, so they will be doing everything possible to make sure that there's, if not like Vegas-like success, we're going to at least be a threat. Not just in the playoffs, like the Wild were the first few 3-4 years. That grinding. You're going to have like Darby Hendricksons. You're going to have Wes Walls. You're going to have players that were third, fourth liners somewhere else that are going to score 20, 25 goals, which in the overall scheme of things won't mean much. But to the success of that team, it's going to mean the world. That's going to be like 80 goals for that team. So if they can just do the same thing, Columbus had a lot of high picks. Nash was the only one that really worked out for them. And they signed some guys, had some other trades that just never really worked out there in those early years. The Wild sort of had that blueprint. It's like, okay, we got Gabrick. We're going to build around him for 6-8 years. Okay, he's good, but he gets injured. Go to New York, do whatever. You start again with Parise and Suter. Okay, their time's come and gone. So even if you get 8-10 years out of them, that's a good chunk of time. You don't want to be flipping the roster every year and a half, 2 years. You don't know as a fan, even as like a casual fan. Hey, man, I like watching Columbus. Well, who the hell they got? I don't know. Because every 2 years at the trade deadline, they're flipping half the roster.
Sounds like the Pirates, Bob Lewis.
Yes, or the Marlins. I mean, it's just you can't have a fan base getting excited for something they don't even know who they're getting excited for. You can't have a bunch of like mystery redemptions and you don't even know, nothing's printed on the other side of the card because it's still a mystery. And Joe here says it's Flyers coach from a couple years ago. So again, if you're a Flyers coach, that's always something that it's a tough job there too, because it's, for whatever reason, everybody thinks that they should be a top tier team, and there's so many high expectations. But I digress. Who were names that stuck out to you in the sense that, not like a big name, but being more of a hockey fan, you're like, how the hell did they leave him unprotected? I mean, again, we can go through the big names again. There's still plenty, because again, Martin Jones was out there for, I think, San Jose too. Yeah, he's had the last 2-3 years have been bad, but he was a huge goalie the mid part of the 2010s, and then started tapering off about 2018. But
I'm telling you, that Luke Glendening kind of floored me because he was the assistant captain last year.
Mm-hmm.
And I personally like him because I like the Red Wings. And when they said, "Who's your Red Wing?" I'd say Luke Glendening, and it was Haley's Red Wing too. So and another guy, Martin Firk, with no vowels in his last name, he's on the unprotected list. And if you don't know about Martin Firk, if you ever seen that boy shoot a slap shot, I'd get out of the way. He it was in I think the minor league all-star game, and he whipped it harder than Chara. He holds the record for slap shot miles per hour. He just I YouTube it. It's, you want to talk about a cannon, just a friggin' cannon for a shot. And that one jumped out at me, even though he's probably not a well-known player. He played for the Wings for a while. I liked him. That's another guy that jumped out at me. Riley Sheehan played for the Wings for a while. Nick Bellino. That one jumped out at me, being a Pittsburgh guy. Josh Hosang kind of jumped out at me too. Like, really? I don't think some guys, you're like, Jaden Schwartz was on there. You know, it's just like Evgeny Dadonov. He's not a bad player. Evgeny Svechnikov. Oh, there was one I was going to mention. A big one. Vladimir Tarasenko.
Yep.
I mean, there's a guy you could take. There's your captain.
Yeah.
You got to think, too, when you're looking through all these players, you got to think of, are you going to make somebody you're going to draft? They're not going to be your captain and assistant captain. And who are you going to pick for your three guys? Or are you going to be like Detroit and have three assistant captains for how many years till you decide on Larkin's the guy? You know, it's like when Zetterberg got it for the Wings. I thought it should go to Datsuk because he's more vocal. He was, I don't know. He just, something about him. It's the same thing with Malkin. You know, a lot of people would say, well, it's the language barrier. I'm like, he speaks hockey. I don't care what language he speaks. Whatever. He motivates his team. You know, all that stuff. Hockey matters. Nothing else. If you can speak hockey, you're good. Hey, do this. Or, hey, really? Is that what you did? Somebody interpret. You know, you can interpret a smack upside the head. But I'm trying to think.
Whole thing one, like, and I'll get back to your question, Brad, and hello to you as well. Whole thing with what's the guy I've gotten down? Tony D'Angelo for the Rangers. Those two seem to have some chip on their shoulder and chip that is not inserted in their brain. There's talent and a lot of it, but there's a disconnect. And I don't know if they just need new organizations overall, whether it be Seattle or somewhere else, but right now their situations aren't working. I know both of them were fairly high draft picks. So I don't know if that's going to be like the dangler. You dangle that Hosang out there and you hope that like a Josh Bailey or Everly doesn't get picked for the Islanders. But at the same time, I don't think that's going to be enough because, I mean, there's so many guys for the Islanders that even like Bellows or Casey Cizikas,
yeah,
there's guys that have upside there, and I'd take Bellows just because of his pedigree. So, but when I saw your Detroit team, DeKaiser and Stetcher were the two guys, again, that, not being a Detroit fan, not watching any of their games, those are the two guys I knew the most. Or, I mean, I know Valtteri Filippa.
Yeah.
Fipula or whatever.
Fipula.
Flipperla. That's another name. I'm like, wow, okay. And the one of them that surprised me that was not protected was Jared McCann going from Pittsburgh to Toronto, and I think for a second-round pick,
Yep.
and being exposed right away. I'm like, wow. Yeah. I think you want to get some of these depth guys with some of those high picks for Toronto, but you just give it up for nothing if he gets picked. I mean, that's absolutely got to be. I don't know. I don't get that. Again, I don't have the protected list to see who I would protect instead of, or I'd leave unprotected instead of McCann. But at the same time, it's like, good Lord.
This is a good point that Joe made.
Yeah, Joe, you're going to be our brain power tonight. So that's going to be interesting. If they don't have the sweetener deals like the Arapala first rounder instead of Dumba, if you're taking Tarasenko, if you're taking, let's say you take Vince Dunn and you want to move him from St. Louis, whoever the case may be, if there's a big number out there, Adam Henrique for the Ducks, you take him with the purpose of you've got a deal worked out with somebody. So that can be something that's thought about too. If we start speculating on the trades, that might take like 3 to 4 days worth of time. But I think there's going to be some trades that are going to shock people. What they are, I don't know. But I can see them, and again, they'd have to do medicals. I don't know how that works out if you just trust the team doctors faxing over what they do, or the independent ones that if they've went to like an independent physician or whatnot. The Eichel, he's pretty much at some point going to get traded, just because there's Buffalo is a wasteland, and it shouldn't be, but it is. You get rid of Hall, you pretty much get nothing for Hall, and at some point you're going to try to recoup on Eichel before his value submarines anymore. So I think he's got the shoulder injuries or some injuries as well. So I can see them trying to do a trade, get some picks, and then maybe shuffling some of those picks to Buffalo. I know what I've read, they want a lot. Right now, I would not offer a lot. I'd offer a substantial package, but I wouldn't go Herschel Walker. I wouldn't go Eric Lindros on them and just be like, here, you take all the picks. Take 2 or 3 players, 4 players. That's what Buffalo's hoping for, to sort of like regenerate that franchise, but I just don't think it's going to happen. And again, the longer they wait for that to transpire, I think the return on Eichel is going to be less significant. Well, yeah, if Kerfoot is you said what on Twitter? Somebody said on Twitter that Kevin Weeks was going to make the pick, and I don't know where the heck that was, but see if we can find it. Did I go too far back? Probably. That he's something leaking on Twitter. Nope, I can't find it. I'm dumb. Anyway, yeah, they can keep McCann there too. So just depends on who they got in mind.
I'm just looking at some of the protected lists. I just went to Pittsburgh, and they did pretty solid protecting guys. I mean, their core guys are there. They protected Jeff Carter, which was interesting, but He killed it in the playoffs. He was on his horse, playing like a rejuvenated Jeff Carter. So they got him, Sid, Jake Gensel, which is, got to think, the future, part of the future of the franchise. Brian Rust, who I like because I've said it before, it was Malkin, and he played for Brad's Blue Jackets for a while. I got to think of his name. It might come to me. It might not. I'm old. But he was just scoring, and I'm like, this is the best thing in the world. You got Gino and this kid, and it was, I forget who else was on that line. I don't know if it was Gensel when he first got there, but they were just lighting it up. And they traded him, and he went to the Blue Jackets. And I think he finally retired. He might still be playing. I can't think of his name to look. Like all this VLOOKUP stuff I could do with Excel, and I can't figure out what his name is. Help, Brad. I cannot think of his name, but
in the two mocks I saw, it's the first two. One had Kevin Strenland, and then the next one had Max Domi. And both I can make arguments for. At least you're not giving up William Karlsson and him going from a 6-goal to a 43-goal scoring forward to Vegas, but I think Columbus would like if Domi went with less, I won't say headache, but you have sort of these head case dudes. You hope that, like last year when you trade Josh Anderson for Domi, it's going to be a wash. Both guys will either do well or they'll both stink it up. Anderson did really well for Montreal. Montreal made the Stanley Cup Finals. Columbus also ran once again. So it's going to be interesting. I'd say my money's probably on Domi. I think it might be Domi if I had to choose.
yeah, Brad, I had him highlighted, Zach Aston Reese, and I was like, huh? That was one of my head scratchers because they protected Teddy Bluger.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if that's how you pronounce his last name. I just say Bluger. And they protected Kapanen. I don't know. At Zach Aston Reese was pretty good. And that's what makes this so crazy. Like, you can only protect 11 players.
Yeah.
Right? So it's just like, who do you not protect? Well, they protected Brian Dumoulin, which makes sense, and Letang. Mike Matheson. It depends on cap space too. Mm-hmm. Everybody's shooting for. Look with Tampa Bay. What the cap last year was $78 million, and they were at what, $98 million.
Mm-hmm.
Look for them to shed some cap space there. And the Penguins were, it was Crosby's rookie year. I think that the cap went into modern day effect. I think that was 05-06 because 04-05 was the lockout, and then they put the cap in 05-06, if I'm not mistaken. And I was reading something the other day that the Penguins had the most successful team since the cap was put in Crosby's rookie year. Cup wise, playoff wise, points for wise, wins. And I just have a bad feeling if you look at that protected list, Malkin, Letang, Crosby, Jeff Carter. Those guys are 3 to 5 years, and if that, and they have some elder statesmen on the list.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think they're hoping for one more run, but at this point in time, goaltending. And like you said, I think they protected the wrong one. It's a coin flip.
My dad agreed with me the other night when we were talking about that. And he's like, they protected Jari? He goes, that's interesting. I said, maybe they're shopping for a goalie. I don't know. I know Matt's dream is to have the Flower back for one more run at it, which I wouldn't mind at all. But yeah, I don't know how we've done it for the Penguins all these years, putting together all the teams that we did for what we did it for. And you have to probably think Crosby shorted himself a lot to be on a successful team. I think Malkin did too.
Yeah.
But the money you make, I saw something where it was either Ronaldo or Messi. I think it was Ronaldo. He gets like $60 million from his salary for soccer. He gets almost $1 billion passive income from all his stuff, like Gronk did. He had saved all his NFL money and lived off all his money he got from endorsements. It's like, how much are you willing to sacrifice money-wise on your NHL paycheck to be on a team that's going to hoist cups?
Mm-hmm.
It's not like Mike Ilitch did back in the day. Okay, let's get Brett Hall, Dominic Hasek, Brendan Shanahan, all these guys. Same thing with Pittsburgh. Ronnie Francis. Let's bring in Rick Tocchet. Kevin Stevens is here. We're good. Let's go get Protector. Let's get Alf. And, it's not like that anymore. You can't carry this infinite amount of money. And those money spent during those Penguin days, the early 90s, probably put them in the situation they were in when they owed Mario a ton of money.
Mm-hmm.
And that didn't help. I probably, I was talking to one of the dads tonight on the softball team, and he's like, what's the cap for hockey? I said, like 78 to like 82 million. He's like, really? That's all they get paid? I'm like, yeah. I mean, it's not even in comparison to NBA or NFL or Major League Baseball. There's no $1 million, $1 billion men.
No, you're not going to see any $500 million contracts for the NHL anytime soon. I mean, ever, unless that cap absolutely doubles, triples. That may happen, Bobby. That may happen. So for the Wild, because again, hearing that Parisi and Suter got bought out, I'm like, okay, that frees up 2 spots because some of these guys did waive their no movement clause in order. More than likely, they're not going to be taken. and that allows the team to keep players that are actually useful. Eric Johnson, I know in Colorado, up Josh, that I don't remember who it was defensively that they kept because I know they traded Graves to the Devils, but he was going to be exposed anyway. So to get I think a second or a third for him.
They kept Dumba, Spurgeon, and Brodeen.
Yep.
Defense was.
Carson Soucy would be the one that it's either him, and I love Ian Cole. He's that locker room presence. He's been around. He's had lots of success. I don't think they're going to take him a lot because, again, either Kaapo Kakinen or Carson Soucy. Those are the two that immediately jump out to me, being a guy that follows the Wild pretty closely. Again, you've got some other solid players, like Bugstead and Bonino and Victor Rask on there, underperformers or third or fourth line guys.
Yeah, those are the three guys I had highlighted right in a row.
Because Rask, since he's come over from Carolina, up and down to say the least. Sometimes he was a scratch, sometimes he wasn't. They're souring on him, or they've soured on him to the point where if he got picked, I think they'd be doing backflips. Billy Guerin would be like running around the old Metrodome or Target Field in Minneapolis, being that excited. But to have Kakinen and then you can play him, why they protected Cam Talbot, I don't have a clue. I really, absolutely makes no sense to me. He's a goalie I've never cared for that much. I think Carolina had some success, but Edmonton wasn't worth a damn. He had spurts last year at the Wild. He's 10 years older than Kakinen. I don't get it. And I think that salary's $3-4 million more than Kakinen. So where they did get some money freed up by buying out Suter and Parise, because again they got to re-sign Fiala and then Kirill Kaprizov. You could have more money, hopefully, if they were to take Talbot. It's not like the cupboard's bare. That's one thing that the Wild's always been fairly decent with. Even if they're not top flight, recognizable goaltending prospects, they've always had guys that you can put in Backstrom, Fernandez, Josh Harding. There's been the lineage there where you can at least put guys in and they're not going to fall flat on their face. Devin Dubnyk, Reclamation Project from Edmonton. And it's just, it amazes me. That was something that, when I saw that list, and that was the first time, like, I need to see who Minnesota. Usually I do it in order, by alphabetically. I got to see what's going on there. And to see that, it just made no sense to me. I knew Soucy would be left unprotected just because, again, the guys you mentioned, Dumba, Brodeen, and Spurgeon, you're not going to leave any one of those three unprotected. Yeah, they're making, I think, all $5 or $6 million a year plus, but that's your top pair plus your second pair, half of that. So to see that, I think, and again, it depends on what they do with the other goalie position, but I think Kakinen still has AHL. I don't know if he's got AHL eligibility left, but that would be something that's probably key, depending on who they take as that third goalie, because I figure they're going to take three and then start drafting along the way. But that was what surprised me there with the Wild. I'm glad they bought out Parise and Suter. I know it's never optimal to basically throw money away. But when Parise's a healthy scratch the last basically month and a half, 2 months.
That's not good.
No. I don't care what you're getting paid or what your pride is. If you're sitting in the press box with the owner or the GM, that's not where you want to be unless it's like a Stanley Cup parade. Suter, to a degree, it surprised me, but at the same time, knowing that they have to make the financial commitment to Kevin Fiala and Kirill Kaprizov, you need to find that money somewhere. You've already got those three guys that we've mentioned as your defenseman, Dumba, Brodin, Spurgeon. It's not like the cupboard is completely bare. So Suter will get another contract somewhere. Maybe he'll go out to Seattle. Who knows? Maybe he'll go to Vegas. It depends on, again, I don't know where he's from. If he's from the States somewhere, does he go geographically or does he go back to like a Nashville? But there again, they're in a hurting unit too. So I don't know. It's gonna be interesting.
I'm just looking at Red Wings, which, Larkin was no surprise. Philip Hronek, Nick Leddy, Gustav Lindstrom, that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Tyler Bertuzzi shocked me because I like Tyler Bertuzzi. I really like Tyler Bertuzzi and how he plays. He grinds, and he's got a little bit of speed. He works his tail off. I like the kid. He's good. Plus, he's, Todd's nephew.
Mm-hmm.
I would have thought he would. I think he's getting traded to somebody, I think. Because I don't know. For some reason, I don't know why he doesn't fit with Stevie Y's vision, I guess. I don't know. But I think he's a solid player. And I look for him to go somewhere. But it was surprising that they protected him. And I'm just curious, thinking of Paul, who did the good old Oilers protect? Oh, Draisaitl, that's easy.
They had a couple that were easy, but
Connor McDavid, that makes sense. Brian Nugent Hopkins.
Their goalie is some guy. I think that I don't even know if he played last year. Stewart, something maybe.
Stuart Skinner.
I'm like, huh? Because again, they left off. Was it Koskinen, Mike Smith, and Stalock? All three goalies, I think. And again, I don't know. I don't remember him playing. But those are your three goalies you left off. I want to say Smith is a free agent. So that makes sense. Again, he had ups and downs last year too. But that's been their problem too. Goaltending. They just can't find, no matter who they went after the guy that signed with Calgary, I think, last year. And his name escapes me. But I remember Tommy Salo, I think, is the last, again, I'll say it, the last goalie I can remember for the Oilers that was worth a damn.
Well, Calgary protected Jacob Markstrom, goalie.
That's the one they were trying to sign last year, I think. The
And
one
Louis Dominique and Tyler Parsons are the goalies that they let up for available.
Oakby was another one for Vancouver that surprised me.
Yeah, that I have him on my list. Tuukka Rask is on there. Who else did I see? Ben Bishop, Braden Holtby, Antti Ranta. The Smith's not a bad goalie. Carey Price, Charlie Lindgren, Corey Schneider, Devin Dubnyk, Frederick Anderson,
That
Yaroslav Herlock, James Reamer, Jonathan Bernier, Jonathan Quick, Malcolm Subban was on there, Matt Murray, Pecorine, Mrazek, who had a heck of a time in Detroit, but then he got traded to Carolina, and he stood on his head.
Yeah.
And, there's always that tie to Ronnie Francis there.
Mm-hmm.
Ryan Miller's on here, Tuukka Rask, and Manny's. I wonder if that's Manny's son, Maxime Legacy.
Maybe.
I don't know, but that one jumped out when I was looking through the list. But the other one for Edmonton, of course, was Jesse Puljujarvi, which I picked up his rookie card for $7. Guy had 18 marked. I didn't pay that. And then Kyler Yamamoto, who's good. Ethan Bear, who's really good. Duncan Keith. Darnell Nurse. I don't know, Josh Archibald. And Zach Kassian.
Cassian.
Zach Kassian. See, once somebody says it, I'm like, oh, I know that guy. It's my 9:56 p.m. brain.
I know that. I sit there and look at the names. I'm like, I know if I hear a highlight, okay, that's who it is. Instead of me trying to phonetically pronounce it, I'm like, I don't know, Casio, a watch. He's a Carlos guy or what? The Casio watch.
And look at the available guys. Dominic Calhoun jumped out at me. James Neal, of course, jumped out at me. Devin Shore is pretty decent, I think. I'm looking at the Oscar Cliffbaum.
Yeah,
how did I miss that?
There's
a solid guy right there.
I think with him, Tyson Berry was one I know, but I think Clefbaum's, and Paul will correct us. I think he's going back overseas. Back to, I think, Russia or somewhere that I don't think he's going to be back. That's the one thing I'm fairly certain that I read that he was gone. Or that. I knew there was something where he was not.
I didn't know that. That's interesting. That gets back to the doctor.
Yeah, your medical.
Your medical staff.
Yeah, because I think then the mocks that I read, Tyler Benson and then Calhoun were the 2 picks. And I think then Stretcher or whatever, Strecker were the Detroit picks that they made. Yeah, Ottawa has some guys that are out there that Anisimov, like we mentioned, of Dadonov.
Yeah. Daddy, as Ziri would say. Oh, no, Juleson's on here for Florida. Mm-hmm. There's another solid guy.
But that's the thing. It's already Florida. If they knew, because again, he didn't fit in their future, and he's a free agent. Dreiger, because they got Spencer Knight waiting in the wings, and Bob, not Lewis, Grabowski from Columbus a couple of years ago, who's just been anytime you send those goalies to big contracts, I don't think it's ever really worked out. They got those 2, so it's like, what you're gonna protect. Knight was not he didn't even have to be protected this year. for this draft. So that was huge in a lot of these aspects where some of these guys didn't have to be protected.
Yeah, I'm just looking through the list for. I like to see Patrick Hornquist got protected. That was good since he left all his Penguin gear.
In the locker room?
No, he left in his driveway. So there was a picture on Instagram, and all his stuff is just sitting in his driveway when they kicked him to the curb, literally. So he kicked all his Penguin gear to the curb, and he had a heck of a good year this year. I think he was drafted last. If it was NFL terms, Mr. Insignificant. Well, I want to tell you something. That guy's definitely not Mr. Insignificant because he's put together a very solid NHL career.
Oh, Mr. Irrelevant, yeah.
Yeah, irrelevant. That's it.
Yeah, I think that's the case too. And yeah, last year, I know he's out for a little bit, but I know he had close, if not over 20 goals. I had him, I know, in one of my the multitude of fantasy leagues.
I mean, they protected some solid guys on there. Barkov, Declare, Hornquist, Huberto, Marchment, Verhage, Ekblad, and Bobrovsky, of course. I mean, there's solid guys right there.
Yeah, if they didn't take Driver, it would be like Gudas, Montour, and Strawman down for defensemen, and then Vetrano for a forward, where, again, depth guys and grinders. You're going to need those, and cheap ones. So
C is not being responsible currently.
no.
I have her dog in my lap, and I can hear ghosts at the top of the stairs. I shall return momentarily.
Yeah, there's if Seattle isn't successful this first year, it's going to be, I think, because of injuries or some sort of outlier. They've got enough talent to pretty much cherry pick from. It's not going to be one of those in which you sit there and look at the list and like, man, when you're like I've prefaced before with the Wild, they didn't have this type of situation where you could at least start a couple lines, have really solid goaltending in there. They did get lucky with Manny Fernandez in that his first couple of years because he was lights out. And then you can have some defensemen that are younger, sort of under the radar guys, and have them come in and play 22 minutes, 23 minutes a game. Just looking at the lists, I mean, the two that I mentioned early on for Washington that I'd take over Ovechkin, and depends on where they go goalie-wise. If they take Soucy from Minnesota, they might go Vitek Vanacek for Washington, who's, for all intents and purposes, better than Varlamov when he was there this year. And then Brendan Dillon, if they go with like a Capo Kakinen, you go Brendan Dillon for Washington, another young, stout defenseman that I think is ready to take that jump to the next level. So, yeah, Vitek Vanacek or Brendan Dillon, that would be my two from Washington that I'd be really looking at. And again, to have that for like the Wild or Columbus back in the day. It's like how will they not have that? But it's because of the salary cap.
Nothing like having a little dog try to hang you with your cord to your headset. Let's see. Washington. Nick Dowd,
Mm-hmm.
Carl Hagelin, Connor Sheary, Nick Jensen. Do you want to give up Char to be your captain for a couple years? Maybe 2 at most. And Justin Schultz. Those are the ones. For some reason, I thought TJ Oshie was unprotected, but it was Ovi that's not protected. Evgeny Kuznetsov. Yeah. Anthony Mantha makes sense to protect. Lars Eller. Wow. Looking at that list, the guys they protected are solid. Carlson, Orlov, Van Riemsdyk, Samsonov is your goalie. Now, what happens with Lundqvist? Is he a free agent right now?
I think so. I don't know if he signed a 2-year or 1 year, but he had that. What did he have? Like a heart issue or a lung issue or something?
Heart. He had stuff replaced. I
think
believe a valve.
He just had the 1 year. So I mean, I again, there's your medical. I don't know if I'd even look at something like that unless I got 2 or 3 different doctors at the Mayo to write him off and be, okay, he's good. But Philadelphia, that was another interesting group of people because, man, they had some JVR, Voracek. I know he's been one of your dog's names, his nickname, and that's what he's been the last couple of years, the Ghost. And then I know Carter Hart's their goalie, but just seeing Brian Elliott out there too. I mean, he didn't do a lot for them this year, but again, a veteran that's been around, had success.
Robert Haig isn't bad, and neither is Derek Pouliot.
No.
I mean, looking through the list.
Yeah, just seeing, like, again, we're going to harp on it, or we're going to repeat ourselves, but just the talent that's out there when you have such a minuscule amount of players protected. It's not like it used to be when you're sort of taking that. You're going to take the 4th line grinders. You're going to take like maybe a decent center, a face-off specialist. You're going to take maybe a guy from your 3rd defensive pairing. And you're going to take your backup goalie or 3rd string goalie, and that's the guys you're going to leave out there. I mean, it's literally the Wild and Columbus did not get any meat left on their bone. Vegas and Marciano, they're not buying into the dip. They're getting a lot left on the bone, and the one thing we can't really speculate on because again we're just not in the know is the trades. What prearranged deals are there? And what kind of draft compensation will there be? We saw trades before this come up. Aiden Hill went from Arizona to San Jose, so they actually protected Aiden Hill as their goalie for this because Martin Jones pretty much at some point will be out. But who knows if Martin Jones can be like the Dubnyk of several years ago where getting paid burning out, flaming out in Edmonton, sort of just being an also ran and then going to Minnesota for nothing and then rejuvenating his career. Who knows if that may happen? So there's a lot of players out there. A lot. It's just like you got Carolina, you got Nino Niederreiter, Jake Bean, Jake Gardner. I know he's a free agent, but Dougie Hamilton. You said before Matt Mrazek and Reimer. You've got a lot of talent there. Again, Gardner has a contract that Carolina regrets probably now, but at the same time, Jake Bean is a solid defenseman. You can only, again, with only protecting so many players, you're leaving a lot of, as the kids say, the smart kids, meat on the bone.
I'm just looking at that list now. Morgan Geeky's not bad as a forward. Nino Niederreiter, Maxime LaJoie for defense. There's a couple guys that you can. Now, there's Sebastian Aho. Where did I get that Aho was not protected? I don't know where my.
That might have been the other one. Isn't there another one somewhere?
Yeah, and what I did was when I highlighted names, I highlighted them in blue and took them over to another column in my spreadsheet, and I'm like, I lost the teams. I should have VLOOKed up and put the team next to the. I'm ill prepared. My Excel skills have failed me. That's because I had to switch to water. We went and stopped for ice cream, and I'm too sugared up to drink any more sugary drinks. So I switched to uncaffeinated water. Svechnikov is such a good player. Teravine and Vincent Trocheck. They protected some good guys there. I mean, Warren Fogle. Now, who I didn't look at a lot was Chicago, because their list compared to everybody else of the available was really small.
Yep. I saw it.
It jumped out at me. I mean, Taves and Kane are no-brainers. The Brinkat, yeah, he's really friggin' good. Dylan Strome, yeah, he's makes sense to protect. Connor Murphy. So not sure, because the only thing I have highlighted was Malcolm Subban and John Quinville. Those jumped out at me.
Is Dahan? That's the guy I think. Because I think the guy they got from Arizona, Zedorov, the defenseman, I think he's a restricted free agent. I think his price for what he puts out is not going to be where it should be or where he thinks it is. Brett Conley was another one. Solid. Pitcher.
Adam Gaudette's on there too, forward.
Mm-hmm.
There's another one that's solid. I didn't highlight him before. Ryan Carpenter's not bad. There's a lot of people you could build a third and fourth line from here that you can, like you were talking about the face-off specialist. If you want that, Luke Glendening, and but I have a partiality to him.
I know Matt had asked, I don't even know if we got to the question, but Carey Price, I just don't think if there was no hip problem and the reports of him probably missing part of the next year, I think that would be a no-brainer. You get the Stanley Cup runner-up goalie, somebody that's been around forever, and then you can get a couple of these other middling guys, a Dreiger, still have, and you can save Price. You don't have to play him 60, 65 games. You can play him 45 to 55 games. You can put Dreiger in there for 40, 45 games. Guess what? That's the new norm. There are no more Brodeurs and Waz, Hasheks that are playing like 75 to 80 games because you just get run down.
Doesn't happen anymore.
So 1A and 1B, that's what you need now.
I did see that for Duncan Keith.
Yeah, that made no sense, especially with Chicago not retaining a cent of the salary. That was the dumbest part of it by a leap, a bound, and that leap and bound was over the Grand Canyon. That makes no sense because everybody knew that Keith was on the market. They were trying to get rid of him. It basically was, for all intents and purposes, a buyer's market. If you want a Duncan Keith, you weren't going to give up a ton because, again, I know I've seen the part where Caleb Jones goes to Chicago, sort of set up the possibility of Seth Jones being traded there. I've heard that where they want to play together. But the Oilers, that's always so tough. I know Paul's more into him than I. That's always been a team on my periphery, where I've liked them forever and a day. It just they never seem to they seem to be right at that cusp, and then it's like somebody just flicks out the domino, flicks out the Jenga piece, and everything just goes to shit. And it's like you get close, and then nope, take it away.
I'm looking at the New York Islanders too. I have a lot of stuff highlighted for them. Kiefer Bellows, Michael Delcole, Jordan Eberle, Josh Hosang, Kyle Palmieri, Travis Zajac, Sebastian Aho. That's where I got it, the defenseman Sebastian Aho. Andy Green, and Corey Schneider. I mean, dang. There's some highlights there.
I would say even the lower tier guys, you had Richard Panik, Kyle Palmieri, Leo Komarev, and then Braden Colburn. Those are all former big names that are now relegated to more of a situational position on the team, but they gave up a bunch for Palmieri a few years ago from New Jersey.
Casey Cizikas is on here too.
Yep, that's another.
Dang, I missed him the first go through.
Yeah, Joe mentions that here it was, I think his kid's in like British Columbia. So you basically had to choose between Seattle, which has no folks on the team, Vancouver, Calgary, Edmonton. So again, I get that Edmonton makes the play, but not to basically know that he wants to play with one of those three Western Conference teams, that he's been on the trade market for a while, and to not have Chicago pick up a wooden nickel of that salary for a guy who's been in decline for the past 2 or 3 years, as good of a leader as he may be, is absolutely egregious. So Paul here says the Pentagon is 45-minute flight from Edmonton. I don't think the Pentagon is, Paul. I don't think so.
I think that's not the Pentagon, but okay.
I think it is, though. Let's check again. Yep. Looks like the Pentagon to me.
Allegedly. You know who I didn't highlight anything for, Dave? It's the New York Rangers. I was like, who are these? It was like the time when Major League and the construction workers are out there. Who are these friggin' guys? And I'm sitting here, I'm looking at it again.
I get Jack Johnson. Jack Johnson's was, I think, a top 2 or 3 pick many moons ago from the Gophers. Big salary, maybe not anymore. Maybe he's on the lower tier, but still, a guy that's just sort of out there as your third pairing of defenseman. I mentioned him earlier with Josh Host saying the Tony DeAngelo fell out of favor mid-year with the Rangers. I think they just sent him home. Said, you know what, just go home and we'll pay you not to be around. And I think they got Barclay Goodrow from somewhere. I don't know if it's Tampa or what, but he's a free agent. And they've got like the exclusive rights, and I think they're going to sign him. Those are the only three that actually like had any tinge of like worth.
And there has to be something with the rookies because Capo Caco's not on here.
Yes, there's. I don't know what if it's like the first 2 years or what. Cause
Yeah, and neither is Alexis Lafreniere. So that makes some sense to me that you wouldn't be stealing the future right from under him.
Yeah,
I didn't even notice that till now, and I'm looking at the list and I'm like, where are those two at? And that makes perfect sense now the 1020 has arrived and my brain's turning back on since I was, like I said, that ice cream cone apparently did my brain in. I must have had some serious brain freeze.
Nashville. Let's talk about them. Anybody on there that? I mean, there's some big names. A couple big contracts. They left exposed. One that was supposed to be, I think, a savior for Columbus a couple of years ago, but he got shipped over there. The former centerman for the Avalanche, Mr. Duchesne, is left unprotected.
Yep, I saw that. I have him, Nick Cousins, Ryan Johansson, Pecorine. I'm just looking at the other ones. Frederick Allard's not bad. Brad Richardson's not bad either.
I'd haul on there again just because the name I known. Grimaldi, a grinder. Again, probably not going to take him, but if this was the Wild Columbus, this would be a guy you'd probably take and elevate. Yeah, they didn't have a ton, and I know with what's his name, Rene, he's done, but at the same time,
he's officially retired, right?
Yeah, I think it was about what a week and a half ago.
I thought I saw something on that, and I didn't see a name, and I've been getting calls from work, and it was at the same time, and I'm like, huh. And then I forgot all about it, and yeah. But just looking at the people they protected, Roman Yossi, Saros for the goalie.
Mm-hmm.
Excuse me, that makes sense. Philip Forsberg, Matthias Ekholm, Dante Fabro, Roman Yossi. That makes. I mean, they protected a lot of D-men. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Again, there must be a lot in play. Yeah, their whole defense is almost intact. They kept 3 forwards, 5 defensemen, and a goalie. Well, that's odd. Aren't you able to protect 11?
I think if you protected more than 3 defensemen, you could only protect.
Yeah. That makes sense. It's the factor. I remember that from the last draft. Again, 1024 brain has gone downhill from 1020 brain.
Thanks for coming in, Joe.
Night, Joe.
Providing some knowledge for our feeble minds. Colorado, what do you think with them?
Let's see what I got for Colorado. Landeskog jumped that after, that one jumped at me real quick. Brandon Saad, Devin Dubnyk. I have those three guys highlighted. Carl Soderberg isn't bad.
Yep. I had him. JT Comfer, and then Eunice Donsky.
I'm not familiar with him.
Those are ones that when I saw JT, that was the first one I understood.
And I think a lot of the things for me, now that the Red Wings and the Penguins are in the same, they moved from the Red Wings from the west to the east.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's dulled down my exposure to the West Coast teams.
Yep.
And I think that's back in the day. Yeah. My favorite, Kel McCarr. That was one of my favorite. Some guy was doing a video. He's like, don't invest in defensemen. Just don't. With that being said, who would you invest in? Kel McCarr. And I'm like down in my hole down here. Idiot. You are an idiot. And I'm just the better half. What are you cackling about down there? I'm like, what's Cale McCarr? She's like, a hockey player. I'm like, expand. A defensive hockey. I'm like, exactly. A defensive hockey player, but don't invest in him because there was never this guy named Raymond Bourque. No. Zdeno Chara. No. Don't invest in him.
Some guy for the Bruins way back in the 60s.
Oh, yeah. His name pronounced. Oh, Bobby Orr. I didn't even go back that far. I was like, dude. And this guy, the other guy with him was like a hockey guy. And I'm like, you're agreeing with him. I don't comprehend this. And I'm like, well, I haven't seen an NHL video from him since because I look for them because he did one and he has not done one since. Hashtag whatever my wife said last week. And we know what it is. The people that are watching.
What about Arizona? Let's talk about them for a minute since that's like again, another also ran franchise. And again, there's some names on the list, but nothing. I don't know how many of these guys are actually going to be like desired by anything.
Gogo's getting old. Alex Goligoski.
Yep.
I loved him. I when he played for Pittsburgh, he has a place in my heart. Antti Ranta for goalie.
Yeah.
I'd pick him up. Andrew Ladd's on there. Derek Brassard. Let me see. I'm doing a better look at it now that I'm concentrating more.
And I don't know if he's a free agent, but Halmerson for the former Chicago Blackhawk. He's on there.
Oh, yeah, he is. I'm like, now that I look at again, pronunciation. Where's Paul? Get my MVP cards. I need pronunciation. Like that night we were helping Bob. And now I'm failing miserably at my own game.
And then Christian Fisher, that was another one that I mean, you got other guys like Tyler Pitlick and Jason Demers, but again, those are like low-end depth guys at this point.
Well, they protected good, solid players. Got Phil.
Yeah, I saw that that Bunting was one of the guys, or was it Emily Kaplan for ESPN? They had her draft, and then Greg Wyshynski, I think. the dude's how you pronounce the name, and he picked Fisher. So
Man, they have some solid players protected. Christian Dvorak, which I think he has a lot of upside. Same thing with Nick Schmaltz. I really like Nick Schmaltz. Jacob Chikrin, who is, I think, the son of. We had that on early IRP. Bob was on here, and I was trying to explain. No, it was the same video that he was opening the cards with Matt. And I'm like, Jacob Chikrin. I'm like, like Jeff Chikrin from the Penguins. And I lost Bob there. Bob was just, he's like, Vinny, what are you saying? And then there's OELs on there. So he's Darcy Kempler, solid. Clayton Keller, if I didn't mention him. I like Phil. I think Phil's as much as people make fun of him eating hot dogs, and there's that hot dog in the cup when he won it. He took out the ad in the Toronto paper when he won the cup with Pittsburgh. Phil's he's an everyday kind of guy that when he played for Pittsburgh, I really liked him. He was on that line with Brian Rust. Brian Rust, Malkin, and Kessel were together. And that line, when it was on, that line was on. But I don't know. They started fiddling with stuff and moving people around, and then people got into it with decisions, and that didn't last. Somebody got hurt. I think Malkin got hurt, and then when he came back, they didn't put them together because they switched stuff up and just did not work out. Still trying to think of that guy's name, Brad. It's driving me insane. From the Penguins had that went to Columbus, and I can't think of who he was traded for to elaborate any further. My mind is gone on that. We talk about Boston.
A little bit. You mentioned Rask and
David Krejci. Good Lord.
Another one.
Ritchie, Connor Clifton, Mike Riley, Jared Tenorti, Urasov, Verlack, and Tuca. Yeah. Did I miss anybody?
Jeremy Lauzon on there, and then I remember John Moore again as a grinder defenseman. I think for Colorado, either Colorado or Toronto. Again, my hockey watching has been limited because I don't have TV, but I the fantasy part of it I still keep very much up with. And Nick Ritchie.
Yeah, I have him highlighted. We were about this close to getting the NHL package, but our cable company doesn't have it. Okay. But we figured how to stream from like the iPad or something to the TV. And my TV in the living room all of a sudden decided not to do anything, not accept the internet, just does not want to agree with me any which way, shape, or form. So we were like, well, glad we didn't do that, because we usually get the baseball package so I could watch the Pirates, because I would be in one room and she'd watch the Tigers in the other. And I really liked watching the Pirates because, I don't know, I grew up watching Detroit on and off, but when it comes to the Pirates, I feel more at home with our losing ways. And when we win, when they raise that Jolly Roger, man, I get the feelings in the cockles.
So Brad's asking what year of the Columbus player, whatever that was, that got traded.
I bet it's about 6 years ago, Brad. He was a young player, only like 2 or 3 years in the league. He played wing with Malkin, and man, I keep wanting to say Luke Glendening. I have him on my brain, and I cannot think of. I could see the guy. He's shot right-handed. I know that. I just cannot think. It'll come to me 4:00 in the morning. My better half will shoot out of what? Dogs all look at me like that's none of our names.
I'll be barking.
Yeah, which Ghost likes to do anyhow. But they have a solid lineup there. Patrice Bergeron, Charlie Coyle, Jake DeBrusk, Trent Frederick, Brad Marchand, David Pasternak, Brandon Carlo, Charlie McAvoy. Now, Dan Vladar is their goalie.
They've got 2 or 3 goalies that are near being ready for prime time. So I think Halak is gone no matter what.
That's why I was D. Smith for Penguins. That's why I was shocked.
Because I think both of them are free agents, Halak and Tuukka.
Yep.
In Dallas, like we mentioned, or you had mentioned early on with Benny Bishop being left unprotected, but that you got to choose between either him or Khudobin, and Khudobin's 6 or 7 years younger, so it's like, wow.
Yep.
And you just got to hope that the injury of this past year scares off Seattle, so they don't trade or they don't try to select him. To think they both drafts had the same player being taken from Dallas. Adam Mashurn or Mashurn. Which for me, that was a guy I was completely unfamiliar with. You have to tell a tale out of school. That was somebody when I saw the unprotected list, I did not write him down. So there's a few of those, but.
We say anything about Anaheim?
That the guys that they left unprotected would be an all-star team probably 7 years ago.
Yeah, that's right. Adam Henry, Getzlaff, Backus, Fleury, Miller.
Shattenkirk.
Yeah. Oh, I miss Shattenkirk. Ah! Good Lord.
That's one of the first ones I had seen because I loved him in St. Louis, him and Pietrangelo. I was huge fans of both of them. So.
Talk Boston.
The one I wanted to make sure to get to before we wrap anything up is Calgary, because there's one name that really stuck out as somebody who probably might be only good for the 2 or 3 years, if that, because of his age, and that's Mark Giordano.
Yeah,
that was a huge surprise for me because Calgary's had such a tough time finding defensemen. Now you have one. Again, at the twilight of the career at 37, but he hasn't slowed down a ton. So to leave him out there, and again, you're going to have to bump your cap up, and I think he's got a $5.5, $6 million cap hit. That's one I'd take very, very quickly. I'd be like, that's going to be one of the first ones.
It's not a bad one.
I won't want Lucic because he's well past his prime. Joachim Nordstrom, Ronaldo, Brett Ritchie, they're all, again, more of the depth players. If you can get somebody, even for a couple years, Giordano's still playing at a solid level. And guess what? You leave him unprotected, he might have a chip on the shoulder for Calgary, who you're going to be playing.
Yep.
So that's where I'd lean towards Calgary. I think, I don't know if they both had, both same there too. That one makes too much sense. If it doesn't happen, I'd be stunned.
Jeff
Like when-
Skinner. No, where am I at? Oh. I thought I had somebody else highlighted. No.
Yeah, because they really didn't have much of anything that I knew or was familiar with.
Buffalo, right above it. Kyle Caposo is the one that jumped out at me. Riley Shin and Jeff Skinner.
Yeah, Skinner's contract is absolutely an albatross at $9 million a year. And he was getting benched last year too. 2 years or whatever I was after scoring 40, I think, goals or so. But yeah, I had Colin Miller, Skinner, Akaposo, Cody Eakin, Jake McCabe, and Gregarsons or whatever, Zamugas. So, I mean, again, at some point in time, that I love the old Buffalo jerseys from the 90s, but that's about the only thing they've got going for them now. It's like their history. Kings, that was another one that didn't have much on there. That at least I really found.
I don't even remember looking at the Kings.
They had your former forward Andreas Anthuso or whatever.
Well, Antonisiu.
They had him. Oli Mata was one we brought up early, and Quick.
Oh, yeah.
Those were the only three that I had. And again, the guy that they had for them selecting was Cale Clegg, the defenseman. I've never even heard of him.
I had more. Yeah. See, Antonisiu played for Detroit, and then we traded him away. And there was a lot of rumors about him not being very accommodating in the locker room.
Okay.
So I don't know if that he's a great man. Is he fast?
Yep.
He's got speed, and I don't know if he's put that other stuff behind him or if it even was true. So, you hear the rumors. And I did have Martin Ferk, the no-vowed.
Okay.
Because I just like him because he's a solid dude. And again, he's one of those guys that not too many people know about him. But when I saw him shoot that shot, because he had a rocket when he was with Detroit. And then he went down to the Griffins, I think. And I think that's where he did his little show. And I mean, what a shot. And Anze Kopitar he's getting to the end.
Mm-hmm.
Drew Doughty, he's getting up there in age. Victor Arvidsson's protected. We talked about the Wild, talked about Montreal, Nashville. I'm just seeing. Did we say anything about New Jersey?
You mentioned Subban as one of your surprises. But yeah, they didn't. They had 4 players I had written down, and I think I didn't even Montreal, Nashville. The guys that they had picked, Nathan Bastine, and then Nicholas Markley, I think. So again, folks, I'm guessing that are AHL guys.
Yeah.
Because Will Butcher was one, and Subban, Ryan Murray. I think that's the old Columbus guy. And then, again, if this was a year of Columbus and Minnesota, Scott Wedgwood would be a goalie that'd probably be starting for one of them. Went through the Islanders.
How about Ottawa?
Well, I'd mentioned about
Matt Murray.
Yeah, him. Tyranny would be another one. Him and Dezingle or whatever. And then the one you helped me pronounce.
Dadonov.
Yeah. And that's who they had picked.
Oh, Chris Tierney. I didn't even have him highlighted. He's solid too.
Mm-hmm. So those were It wasn't much, but again, I won't ever claim to be a hockey savant.
Oh, how about San Jose? There's one we didn't talk about, I don't think.
New.
3 guys jump out at me right away. Patrick Marleau, if you want to.
Yep.
Dylan Gambrell and
Mhm.
Ryan Donato.
And then the goalie.
Martin Jones.
Yep. Again, past success doesn't mean future results, or past results mean future success. But that's it, though. I mean, they're not much.
We talked about St. Louis briefly.
Yep.
With Vlad and Jaden Schwartz, Tyler Bozak. Tampa Bay, we talked about.
Yeah, they got a lot.
How about Toronto? Did we?
We mentioned a little about. I mentioned McCann, and I think the chat. I don't know if it's Joe had mentioned or Paul about Kerfoot being possibly.
Yep.
But yeah, Frederick Anderson. That's the one that.
Yep.
The emergence of Jack Campbell, the former Dallas Stars first-round pick, coming into his own finally. I don't know how many games in a row he had won, like 14, 13 in a row this past season. But yeah, that sort of made Frederick Anderson an afterthought.
And there's some sneaky guys on here. Nick Foligno, Alex Galchenyuk,
Yep.
Zach Hyman,
Yep.
Kerfoot we mentioned, Wayne Simmons. I like Wayne Simmons. He'll throw down. He's a tough guy, and he's got scoring ability. Jason Spezza, of course. Zach Bogosian.
Yep.
So, I mean, there's some solid names right there. Riley Nash isn't a bad forward.
Mm-hmm.
Jared McCann, he's not a bad forward.
No. And again, like we mentioned too, that I think the giving up a second-round pick or whatever, it's better than whatever they would get. Not protecting whoever they traded away or whatever the situation was. I think for Pittsburgh's end, but yeah, that's the thing.
I'm looking up at the spreadsheet that I looked down. Screw the Leafs.
Thankfully, those folks from Toronto that cried when the Leafs lost in the playoffs aren't watching tonight.
Yeah.
Vancouver, we mentioned Holtby, but yeah,
Yep.
they got Sven Berchi, Jay Beagle, solid.
How did I miss Jay Beagle? He's solid too.
Jimmy Vesey, good. Alexander Elder, solid. I mean, again, maybe not to the point where they were 5-6 years ago, but the thing is, too, with some of these guys that might have like a $2.5-3 million contract, you look at them and say, "Oh man, it's overpriced. These guys are just playing out the string." This could be their time to rejuvenate their career.
Yeah.
Hey, team, healthy scratch, limited minutes, whatever, fourth line. I'm not getting the time I think I deserve, and I'm putting in the time and/or effort to continue my skill. And I may have lost half a step, but I'm not completely just broken down. So if you take a flyer on one of these guys, especially like Jay Beagle with Washington, he was super good.
Yeah, really good.
You didn't hear of him because he did his job. When you start hearing a lot of these names of these guys in here, it's usually because they've screwed something up along the way.
Madison Bowie's on here. He's solid for defense. If my brain's trying to interact right, he played for a little bit for the Wings. Picked him up for a little while.
Because they've got Johan Gadjovich or something of that line as their the mock draft pick.
Well, I'll tell you, 1819 was Elias, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yes.
So we're talking 1920 up, 1920, 2021 rookies. That kind of clears a little bit for my brain.
Yeah, because you wouldn't have to protect Quinn. I don't
Yeah.
think.
Bo Horvat's protective, who's good. Brock Besser, he's
Good.
solid. He's really solid. I'm trying to think of the other defenseman from that video. It was McCarr and then somebody else they mentioned. I'm like, you dolt, he's a defenseman too. It's one of the Hughes brothers, or my brain going stupid.
Quinn's the
Yeah,
defenseman.
It
Jack
yeah.
is the forward.
It was Quinn Hughes. I'm like, you're telling me and don't invest in defensemen, and it was Quinn Hughes. I tried to put that out of my brain because what lunacy I heard, and I deal with enough lunacy. So, that was the other one.
It's probably from one of Ed's videos he shared with us, that Sean Sweeney that he's talked about. his Mensa meetings.
Winnipeg Jets.
That'll be our last one, I think.
Yep, I think that is.
And I think as a chance, I'm very partial to Dominic Tominato because he played for Duluth East. I watched him play in high school. Very solid, super solid player. Stasny, big contract.
Yeah, I have him highlighted.
So again, if you want to take a flyer and hope you rekindle some of that success, I think from St. Louis when he played there.
Who was the first guy you said? I missed it.
Mason Appleton.
Okay. I got Matt. Yeah. Okay, I completely missed him.
Because I know that's been one that I think I even picked him up near the end of the year in fantasy hockey because he had so many injuries that he was playing either in the first or second line, and I'm like, well, you know what? We're gonna see what he does. He scored a handful of goals. That's what you want. This is the perfect candidate to go. I don't know who they have. They had Dylan Palmello or Demo. I can't read my writing. Del Mello? I don't know.
Yeah, Dylan DeMello, defenseman.
So they had him. So I don't know if that's a case where you get the AHL guy in there.
Sammy Niku is pretty good too. He's a defenseman for Winnipeg.
But yeah, they've got to pick a minimum of 14 forwards, 9 defensemen, and then 3 goalies at the minimum. So you got to pick from 30 of the 31 teams. Vegas is exempt. So I think it's 90 minutes. It's tomorrow night. I'm sure I'll figure out a way to either watch it or at least get some updates. Because again, anytime there's a draft, I'm all about it. That's been something since I don't know since '93 for basketball, and then football, then basketball, because you had that big year with football, and then basketball was Weber, Penny, Sean Bradley, Mashburn, all those guys where it's like, oh boy, here we go.
Love Penny Hardaway.
Who?
Penny Hardaway.
Yes.
That was my nickname in high school, was Penny, after Anthony Hardaway. Him and Shaq together, what a loss of what could have been for Penny Hardaway. I love watching him.
So good. So good.
Like, freeze? Yes, I froze.
So we managed to talk for about an hour 45.
We scared away our co-host.
Scared away a lot of people in the chat. Which I figured, again, when we start talking like a very specific thing that isn't, unless you really like something like hockey, it's going to be like, I don't give a shit. Which, that's fine. Again,
Do you feel
people that collect cards from Australia, it's like, who cares?
Do you feel better about your life, Dave?
I do.
That's all that matters.
So, again, if you see this afterwards and you want to roast us for some of the picks, it's fine. No worries. It's gonna be just to see the ball. I can't wait because there's so many ways you can go with this draft for Seattle. Do you take the high risk with like taking Price and hoping, or do you take the safe route? Take maybe DeSmith, take Capo Kakinen to go with Dreiser, and then take maybe the dude from Arizona. They just got him from San Jose, Joseph Kramer, I think, in the Aiden Hill trade. You take him as your like AHL guy. So you take Tarasenko, you take Chara, you take some of these free agent guys and hope. Maybe we're not privy. Again, we're not privy to these discussions. Maybe there's something that Landeskog might want to go there. Maybe there is. Who knows? Maybe if Landeskog says, "Hey, I'm going to get Chara on the phone and I'm going to get Tarasenko. We're going to talk right now. Sign us. We'll go there." Who knows? It's fun to think of some of those situations happening, and will they happen? Probably not. But at the same time, Steve had his list, but he lost it in the ocean.
The turtles or the frogs took it.
Yeah, and the crab had it and ran away. So with that, I think we're rolling pretty good. Just trying to look at the picks to see if we got anybody that we didn't mention at all. The one for Nashville was Callie Yankro, a left wing, had picked him. I think that's it. Colin Blackwell is the pick from the Rangers, the center. One pick had DeSmith, the other had the guy you were talking about, that Anton Reese. Both picks had Gord from Tampa. So I don't know. We'll see what happens. Like we've said, these drafts are always a good time. Not like a draft party, because again, well, maybe for Seattle we'll have a draft party, but I don't think anybody else is. They're gonna have that Friday night, and that'll be interesting. Owen Power will be the name you want to listen to. Get those treats out.
I know. They're the better half couldn't get Ghost inside. Dryden, as soon as you say Dryden, he rolls into the house. But this, yes, you, and he sneezed on it. Yes, Ghost, the draft, Ghost. Who you picking? That's who I thought. That's who will go.
Yeah, I don't know. What do they have for picks, Brad? Anything? We could do a live insert revolution special report on Friday. So let us know. So I think with that, we're good.
Yeah.
Oh, first round. Columbus has picks, but I'm sure they'll flub it up somehow.
Detroit's got a boatload. I think it's like 13 or 14 picks. So, I mean, Stevie Y is going to do some rebuilding, I think, here. He's got a lot of weight on his shoulders being the chosen one.
And I've heard Kings are ready to move out of number 8. So if anyone's looking to move up, I think that's where business will be had. But I don't know.
Detroit has 6th. Yeah, 6th pick. The Pistons have number 1.
For now.
Yep. For now. That's a song for another time, but that's my first NBA game was the Pistons. And they were playing the Bucks, I believe. So and they promptly got annihilated.
Mine, like I've said before, when Mark Eaton died, Timberwolves Jazz, like 91. And absolutely being flummoxed that a human was that big. Just literally a redwood. I've always loved Stockton and Malone because of that. Those two are forever intertwined, and Hornacek and Earl Bailey and just all the guys from that era. And then meeting Chris Dolman, I think Al Noga. My drunk father wandered up and said, "Come here." Like, hi. Like, I'm 10 or 11. I don't know. So
my uncle was 6'8.5", so he was at a very young age. I saw it was my grandfather's brother. He boxed back in the day on my mother's side, and he was just a big, tall dude. Kind of looked like Lurch. And he was, yeah, exactly, Ghost. He kind of scared me. He pinched my cheeks and just grabbed me and shake me. It's the memory I have of the man. Exactly.
Yeah. So, with all that fun being said, interesting episode, of course. Thank those that watched it. Thanks to everybody that participated in the chat, because again, we'd lean on a lot of knowledge here. We've got some. This wasn't like the 90s inserts where a lot of us are real keen on what's going on. So thank you to Joe, Paul, and Brad jumping in and giving from their book of knowledge. Once we get to 100 or 1,000 subscribers in the super chat, I just got to start up my own or our own standalone like TikTok and Twitter, and I'll get a Facebook page and then Instagram, and constantly spam the shit out of it. And I won't say anymore because I'm just going to start rambling.
The OnlyFans I hear is doing well for us.
Oh,
or for you guys. I shouldn't include myself.
You're a guest. You get some of that OnlyFans money. Not much, but you get some.
Thank you.
I think I'm going to spend the next 2 or 3 months creating a logo at an obscene price, just because, as I've learned, that is the thing to do. Hashtag not allegedly. And that would be the hashtag invest we need. So, thanks, Steve, for jumping on earlier, even though he's on vacation. Thank you to Vinny, talking to you or with me, and to you guys all. with hockey. Again, expansion draft tomorrow. I don't know, probably 7 Central Time, somewhere in there. I think it's going to be on ESPN or ESPN2, probably NHL Network as well. So check it out. And subscribe, click the notifications, give a thumbs down, burn your cards, start up a fictional Hall of Fame. What else? Make sure jealousy always is part of your life. Dance your own questions. Dances. We do take EMT, PayPal, Venmo, crypto wallet. Money orders will conceal. So our OnlyFans always up and running. The Discord's rocking and rolling, strutting and strolling. So come back next week. It'll be Nationals Eve, or the National Eve. So maybe we'll talk about that because I know nobody in the community has talked about anything about the National yet. And I'd like to discuss that with you. And I know Steve chomping at the bit. Rennie might be back too, just to add his 2 cents because everybody the National talk. So Steve, sleeping or drinking beer? That's Vinny. I'm Dave. This has been the Instant Revolution podcast. Good night, everyone.